Hey guys, we're making crab cakes tonight. Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming back and checking us out here on Keto Kitchen Chaos. So tonight we're just going to make a crab cake, but without breadcrumbs. We're going to be using almond flour to use as a binder. They came out really delicious. I really hope you'll try this recipe with me. It didn't need any kind of sauce. The kids didn't even want any sauce. Like, that's just crazy to me. But I also mentioned in the video that you can use some other proteins for this. So if you have canned salmon, canned tuna, canned chicken, or you can use fresh fish or fresh chicken. Just make sure it's already cooked and you want to break it up so that it makes a nice patty. But otherwise, I just really hope that you'll enjoy this as much as we did. All right, guys, let's go play. All right, so here we have our cast of characters for tonight's dinner. So for our crab cakes, I just kind of went through the refrigerator and the freezer to see what kind of vegetables I had. So we have a stalk of celery. We're going to use probably about a quarter of that onion. I have 3 garlic cloves, and I also have a jalapeno pepper. This has already been seeded and deveined. I actually froze these because I bought a bunch of them a while back. Excuse me. We also have an egg for a binder and some almond flour. We're going to use a little bit of mayonnaise, some Grey Poupon, Worcestershire sauce, and some Sriracha. And then for our seasonings, of course, we're going to use Old Bay because you got to have Old Bay when you're making crab, right? Also, a little bit of salt and pepper. I may add a little bit of garlic and onion powder to this as well. We'll see how it tastes after I add the Old Bay. That's going to be our main seasoning. And then, of course, we have our crab. So I just want to let you guys know real quick before we get started with this that you can use tuna fish, canned chicken, cooked chicken that you have maybe left over in the fridge. You just chop it up really fine. Or if you have fresh fish or fish in your freezer, thaw it out, give it a very light cook. You don't want to cook it all the way, and then you just pulse that in the food processor. Any of those proteins will work great for these cakes. This is just a basis of what, again, I had kind of laying around in the fridge. I always make this a little bit different, but use your imagination. I'm just here to help give you some creative ideas, and let's be inspired. All right, guys, I'm going to start chopping everything up. Okay, so I have about a tablespoon of fat melting in my pan. I'm using some bacon fat, but use whatever you have, butter, olive oil, coconut oil, whatever you have will work. I have chopped up finely half a cup of an onion, about a half a cup of celery, 3 cloves of garlic, and 1 jalapeno. You can use whatever you have laying around the house, whatever kind of onions you have, even scallions would work, or whatever kind of peppers that you might have. I usually use bell peppers, but I did not have any. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep this on a low heat because we're just gonna saute our vegetables. We just wanna make them soft. So this is our first step, is we're gonna get these all cooked down. So there's our celery and our onions. And you wanna chop these up pretty fine because you don't wanna have big pieces in your crab cakes. This is just to add a little bit of flavor. And I will post the recipe in the description box for you the best that I can. Since I don't really measure my seasonings, I'll at least put down what seasonings I used. I always like to say that you can do it to your taste. So we're going to just let these saute for a couple of minutes. While they're doing that, I'm going to go through my crab and pick out any cartilage or shells that's in them. So make sure you do that because there's nothing worse than getting a piece of shell in your crab cake. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so our vegetables, I sauteed them for just about 3 or 4 minutes, just until they were soft, and I've been letting them cool while I went through the crab. Now, just an important note to make, when you buy crab, you should always go through and pick out the bigger pieces of shells and cartilage, so again, you don't get a nice mouthful of those. There's going to be some, like I just saw a piece right there, sorry, that I didn't get, but at least hopefully we won't have any of those sharp edges. So anyways, this is 2 16-ounce containers of crab meat that I drained, and then I picked through them. So to that, we're going to add our vegetable mixture. I'll get the rest of those out in a second. All right, and then, oh, I gotta grab a spoon. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of lightly mix that around just a little bit. I added just a little bit of salt and pepper to the vegetables whenever I was cooking them. And just for you guys, I pulled out some measuring spoons so I could attempt to do some measuring of my seasonings, because I just don't normally tend to do that. So the first thing I'm going to add is some Old Bay, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of Old Bay in here. And then we'll taste it before we add our egg mixture to see if we need more Old Bay. I try to, be a little bit conservative at the beginning, because we can always add, but you can't take it away. And I'm adding 2 tablespoons because, again, I have 2 16-ounce cans of crab. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a little mix, and then we'll put our wet ingredients in here. So I just tossed this around enough so that I can see that the seasoning has mixed well with the crab. So now we're going to go in with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And this I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to do a couple of dabs. So probably, I would say maybe a half a teaspoon of that. It can be really salty, so that's, again, something I just don't add a lot of. And the other thing I'm not going to measure is going to be the Sriracha. I'm just going to put a couple of little dabs in here. Not enough to really make it spicy, but just to kind of jack it up a little bit. Why not, right? All right, so we have that, and then we're going to go in with our lemon juice, and I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So if you have fresh lemons, that's wonderful. I do not. Also, if you had any fresh herbs, that would be great in here. Again, we're just kind of using what we had in the freezer and in the refrigerator. Okay, so I'm just going to give that another quick little stir. Now we're going to go in with our mayonnaise. We're going to try to go for, I'm going to start with just about a half a cup, and we'll see how that does. This, again, is just kind of a binder and to keep it moist, to hold everything together. So that should be about a half a cup. Now, whatever kind of mayonnaise you use, if you're strictly keto, you're not going to approve of my Hellmann's because it is made with soybean oil, but it is my favorite, and that's what I use. So you use whatever you have. I know they have avocado mayonnaise that you can use. I've tried it. I didn't particularly care for it, and it's expensive, so I didn't buy it again. One of these days I'd like to make my own. And then I'm also going to do a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, or whatever kind of mustard that you have laying around your house. Yellow mustard would be fine, stone ground. This is Grey Poupon, so it's all kinds of fancy. But usually I buy the generic. So again, whatever you have laying around the cupboard. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and give this another stir around. So I had to add about another half a cup of mayonnaise to this. I was trying not to overdo it. You don't want to soak it with the mayonnaise, but you want it to kind of hold together. So that looks pretty good. So again, you're just going to kind of eyeball it, and it will depend on what you're using. Again, you don't want it to be like you're making tuna fish, and you don't want it to be all mayonnaise, but I think that's going to hold together really nice. So now we're going to go ahead and taste it and see if we need to adjust our seasonings. So the crab is already cooked, so it's not going to hurt you, and I haven't put the egg in yet. Well, that's really good, but I feel like it still needs a little something something. So I'm going to throw in just a little sprinkle of garlic powder. It's always my backup spice, right? That, and a little bit of onion powder. And I'm also going to throw in a little bit more of the Old Bay because I don't really taste it that much. So probably about another teaspoon of that. Okay, so we're going to just give that another zhuzh around. Okay, so I think it's perfect now. I added a little bit of fresh ground black pepper to it with those additional spices. And I also threw just a little bit more lemon juice in there. So probably about another teaspoon or so. Tasted it. I think it tastes perfect. So we're going to let that go. So in this bowl, I have 1 egg that has been beaten with an inch of its life. No, I'm just kidding. So this is one of those duck eggs that our friend hooked us up with. So it's so nice and yellow and fresh and just a beautiful thing. So we're going to put that in, and I'm just going to give that a little bit of a stir. And then to my side here, I have a half a cup of almond flour. You can also use coconut flour if that's something that you have. I have both. I keep them in the fridge. I don't use them very often, but they keep really well in there. So just a little bit of a side note for you. So we're just going to kind of see how much I need to hold it together. We'll also use a little bit of almond flour and a little bit of Parmesan cheese whenever we coat these to fry them into the skillet. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to try to just do half a cup of that almond flour. Well, probably not even, I only did about a quarter. And I just really, again, want to do this slowly because I don't want to have a whole lot, just enough to hold it together. It's all just a little bit of a process. So I ended up adding about a quarter of a cup of almond flour, and I'm going to put the other one to the side there because like I said, we're going to use that here in a little bit. So what I did to make sure that it would hold together well enough is I just took a little bit and put it into a little ball in my hand to see if I thought that that was going to make it into a crab cake, and that looks perfect. Okay, so now the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. I'm going to let it sit up just for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to show you my trick on how to make the perfect size patties. So stay tuned for that. All right, so I took my crab mixture out of the fridge. It was in there for about 20 minutes. And the trick I want to show you is so that you can make the patties all the same size. You use a lid. This is just a peanut butter lid. I have a smaller one from a smaller jar of peanut butter, and then this is my big one. I use this whenever I make burger patties, sausages, or in this application with the crab mixture. It just makes it, again, so that they're more uniform, so that they'll cook evenly for you. So you take that and you put a piece of plastic in there. Sorry, I'd already tried to do one, make sure. Now, if you find when you're doing this that your mixture is a little bit loose, you can always add a little bit more almond flour to it. This is a little bit loose, but we're running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to do that. So we're just gonna roll with it. All right, so you're just gonna put that in and make sure it's nice and even. Okay, and then you take your piece of plastic to pull it out. Pop that into your hand, and it is a little bit messy, but like I said, it just works really well to make everything nice and even. And there you go. So in my bowl over here, I have half a cup of almond flour and some shredded Parmesan cheese with a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, you can do this on a plate, you can do this in the bowl. We're just putting a very light coating over top, and this will just give it a little bit of texture whenever we fry them up in the skillet. I'm not placing it in there because, like I said, they're a little bit loose. I really could have used a little bit more almond flour. So just a side note for you. And we're just going to place these over here. So I'm going to continue making these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop them into the freezer for about another 15 minutes. This will just help them firm up a little bit. And then we're going to fry them up in the skillet. So I'll see you back here when we do that. All right, so we have our crab cakes out of the freezer. Like I said, I just had them in there for about 15 minutes just to help them kind of glue themselves together. In my pan, I have some bacon fat that I have melted down, and you want it to be able to cover the pan. So again, use whatever fat that you have, olive oil, butter, coconut oil, anything like that. I like to use the bacon fat because it gives it a little extra flavor. So we're just kind of moving that around. I have my heat a little bit below medium because we want it to get a nice little sear on it, but we don't want to burn it. So we're going to be cooking these for about 2 minutes aside. So you're very carefully going to take your crab cake and mush it together a little bit, and again, carefully put it into the hot oil. Don't burn yourself because that's no fun. I know from experience. So you want to hear that little bit of a sizzle. That way you know your oil is warm enough. If you don't hear a sizzle, don't put any more in. You want to wait till you have a little bit. And you also don't want to crowd your pan. So we're going to have to cook these in batches. And this made 2, 4, 6, 8. This made 10 patties, just to let you know. So just so you have an idea how much crab and that will make. Come over a little bit. All right, so we're just going to let these guys go. I'm going to cover it up with my splatter guard so I don't get any grease anywhere. And again, we're going to cook them for 2 minutes per side. All right, 2 minutes in, I'm starting to flip. You can see they're nice golden brown. Just do it very carefully. Again, you don't want to burn yourself. And, oh, they look wonderful. Perfect. All right, guys. So there you have it. We're going to let those go for another 2 minutes, and then we'll pull them and we'll do the other batch. Look at those beauties. So these are our crab cakes. They came out fabulous. I'm so excited. I can't wait to bite into one and taste it for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get dinner plated up, and then we're going to do just that. All right, gang, so we're ready to start eating, but I wanted to give this a taste for you just to let you know how it came out. Smells really good. It got a nice little brown crust on it. That Parmesan cheese does a really good job of that, and just that little bit of almond flour. So we're just going to go in. Okay, that's delicious. I really hope you guys will try this recipe. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you use a different protein and what you thought about that. So, as always, I appreciate you watching my videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. Also, check out some of my other videos. We have lots of them going on. I have breakfast, I have soups, I have roast. So check one out. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, be good to each other. Peace. Love you.